At first, no one notices. The city is already loud with bad news. Sirens have become background noise. Military aircraft pass overhead like migrating birds. Power flickers. Phones buzz with rumors, half-truths, and panic. Compared to all of that, the sound of a faucet turning on and producing nothing feels insignificant. Just air. A hollow cough from the pipes. Someone assumes it's a temporary pressure drop, a maintenance issue, another inconvenience in a world already falling apart. They twist the handle again. Nothing. Across the city, thousands of people are doing the exact same thing, without knowing it. This is the moment the city begins to die. Not from bombs, not from radiation, not from fire, but from thirst. At first, no one notices. The city is already loud with bad news. Sirens have become background noise. Military aircraft pass overhead like migrating birds. Power flickers. Phones buzz with rumors, half-truths, and panic. Compared to all of that, the sound of a faucet turning on and producing nothing feels insignificant. Just air. A hollow cough from the pipes. Someone assumes it's a temporary pressure drop, a maintenance issue, another inconvenience in a world already falling apart. They twist the handle again. Nothing. Across the city, thousands of people are doing the exact same thing, without knowing it. This is the moment the city begins to die. Not from bombs, not from radiation, not from fire, but from thirst. Esposa de silent failure. Modern cities are not designed to survive without water. They are designed to consume it constantly. Every toilet flush, every hospital procedure, every cooling system, every fire suppression line, every food supply chain depends on one invisible miracle: pressurized, treated water moving endlessly through pipes buried beneath concrete. When World War III erupts, water infrastructure is never the headline. It doesn't trend. It doesn't explode on camera. But it is one of the first systems to fail. A cyber attack cripples pumping stations. Backup generators run for a few hours. Then fuel deliveries stop. In some cities, a missile strike miles away ruptures a main transmission line. In others, engineers simply don't show up to work anymore. Within minutes, pressure drops. Within hours, reservoirs begin to drain. Within a day, the taps go dry. And almost no one understands what that means. Denial people improvise explanations. It's just my building. They'll fix it. They wouldn't let this happen. Supermarkets are already strained from panic buying, but water aisles still look mostly untouched. After all, why buy bottled water when water has always come from the wall? Hospitals notice first. Dialysis machines shut down. Sterilization systems fail. Surgeons cancel procedures. Nurses begin rationing bottled supplies meant for emergencies, not citywide collapse. Fire departments send out internal alerts. Hydrants are losing pressure. If a building catches fire tonight, there may be nothing to stop it. Still, the streets are calm. Still, the city breathes. Barely. The first warnings authorities issue statements, carefully worded, dangerously vague. Temporary disruption. Please conserve water. Do not panic. But panic doesn't come from words. It comes from experience. Apartment dwellers fill bathtubs too late. Office towers discover their restrooms are unusable. Restaurants close without explanation. Schools send children home early. Then someone tries to flush a toilet. It doesn't work. Sewage begins backing up almost immediately. And now the crisis is no longer invisible. The collapse of hygiene. Without water, sanitation collapses in hours, not days. Hours, people improvise, buckets, trash bags, hallways start to smell. Elevators become unusable. Entire apartment floors are abandoned as human waste accumulates. Garbage trucks stop running, rats don't. In hospitals, infection rates spike. In shelters, diarrhea spreads. Dehydration begins quietly. Headaches, dizziness, confusion. No one dies yet. But the clock is ticking. The first deaths. They won't make the news. An elderly man in a high-rise, already weak, collapses from dehydration compounded by stress. A child with severe diarrhea doesn't get IV fluids in time. A patient in intensive care loses access to sterile equipment. These are not dramatic deaths. They are small, private, invisible, and they are only the beginning. By now, word spreads faster than official statements ever could. The city has no water, not low pressure, not boil advisory, no water. Infrastructure turns against the city. Without water, everything else begins to fail. Power plants shut down due to cooling issues. Rolling blackouts become permanent darkness. Elevators trap people inside. Cell towers lose backup power. Now, communication collapses. Rumors replace facts. Someone claims the army is distributing water on the other side of town. Thousands move at once. There is nothing there. Someone else says a convoy is coming. It never arrives. The point of no return. By the third day, dehydration becomes lethal. Lips crack, urine stops, minds fog. People make fatal decisions. They drink from rivers polluted with industrial runoff. They consume water from flooded basements mixed with sewage. They ration too late, or not at all. Families break apart searching for supplies. Friends betray friends. The city is no longer a community. It is a hunting ground. And this is the most dangerous phase, not because of war, but because of desperation. A city on the edge. At 72 hours, the city hasn't exploded. It has imploded, quietly, system by system, person by person. And now, standing on the edge of mass death, the survivors face a terrifying truth. The bombs didn't kill the city. The war didn't kill the city. The absence of water did. We follow what happens after day 3, when survival turns into something darker, and the line between human and animal disappears. By the 4th day, the city is no longer dying. It is dead. What remains is something else, something primal. The body fights back. Dehydration doesn't kill you instantly. First, it lies. People convince themselves they're fine. They aren't. Blood thickens, hearts strain, kidneys shut down silently. The brain, deprived of fluids, begins to misfire. Judgment collapses, aggression spikes, fear becomes overwhelming. This is why day 4 is the most dangerous day. Not because resources vanish, but because reason does. Hospitals are no longer hospitals. They are dark buildings full of people waiting to die. Without water, sterilization is impossible. Without power, machines are silent. Doctors are forced to choose who gets the last remaining IV bag and who doesn't. Most choose their own families. No one judges them. The rise of water, hierarchies. By now, the city is divided into 3 groups: those with water, those searching for water, and those too weak to move. The first group is small, some prepared, some stole early, some killed for it. They fortify apartments, barricade stairwells, sleep with weapons nearby. Water is no longer a resource, it is power. The second group is the largest. They roam, not aimlessly, but desperately. They follow smoke, rumors, movement. They tear open vending machines for a few ounces of liquid. They strip abandoned homes. They drink condensation from air conditioners that no longer work. The third group, they are already dead. They just haven't fallen yet. Violence changes shape. There are no riots. That comes later. This phase is quieter. A man follows another man for hours, waiting until he collapses from exhaustion, then takes his bottle. A mother trades jewelry for a cup of filthy rainwater collected from a tarp. A group pretends to share information, then ambushes the ones who trust them. The violence is personal, close, human, and it accelerates. Infection takes over. Without water, wounds don't heal, they rot. Scratches become death sentences. Diarrhea becomes lethal. Minor burns turn septic. There are no antibiotics, no clean bandages, no way to wash hands. The smell of decay spreads through buildings. Bodies remain where they fall. People step over them. At first, with horror, then with indifference. This is when the city crosses a psychological threshold. Death stops being shocking. It becomes background noise. The collapse of morality. By day 5, people stop asking if something is right. They ask if it works. Parents abandon children who slow them down. Friends separate temporarily and never meet again. Elderly relatives are left behind with apologies that sound convincing until the door closes. This isn't evil, it's biology. The human brain under extreme dehydration prioritizes survival over empathy. Civilization is a luxury. Water is not. The myth of rescue. Hope becomes the most dangerous thing left. People cling to rumors of relief convoys, of military intervention, of safe zones outside the city. Some leave, most don't make it far. Roads are clogged with broken vehicles. Heat stroke claims the weak. Armed groups control exits, demanding water in exchange for passage, then killing travelers anyway. Those who stay behind realize something terrifying. No one is coming. The war has moved on. The city is irrelevant. Organized predation. This is when groups form, not communities, packs. They control water sources, real or imagined. They mark buildings. They establish rules enforced by violence. Outsiders are stripped of supplies or killed outright. This is no longer chaos. It is order, a brutal one, and it favors the ruthless. The point of no return. By the 7th day, survival rates plummet. Even those with water suffer from electrolyte collapse. Drinking alone is no longer enough. Bodies fail anyway. People hallucinate. They see water where there is none. They drink from puddles shimmering with oil. They laugh. They cry. They stop moving. The city is quiet now. Too quiet. Only fires burn, unchecked, unstoppable, fed by buildings that no one tries to save. The survivors who remain. Those still alive at the end of the first week share something in common. Not strength, not intelligence, but timing. They were lucky early. They found water early. They adapted early. Everyone else, they are part of the landscape now. End of part 2. Humanity stripped bare. By the end of day 7, the city is no longer human. It is a graveyard shaped like streets. And the worst truth is this. This didn't require nuclear fallout. This didn't require total war. It only required the absence of water. We follow what happens after the first week, when the survivors face a final question. Do they rebuild, or do they become something else entirely? By the second week, the city isn't collapsing anymore. It already collapsed. Now it's settling, like dust after an explosion. And what rises from that dust is not a return to normal. It's a new world, a world built around one truth. Water decides who stays human and who doesn't. Silence becomes the enemy. The first week is loud. Screams, sirens, crowds, fires. The second week is quiet. Too quiet. The streets look abandoned, not because no one is left, but because no one wants to be seen. Movement becomes a signal, and signals attract predators. In apartment blocks, people stop using stairwells. They crawl through hallways like animals. They avoid windows. They speak in whispers. They sleep in short bursts, because sleep is when you get robbed. Or worse, what happens to the strong ones? Most people imagine survival as a movie. The strong make it. The weak don't. Reality is crueler. The strong often die too, because strength attracts conflict. If you are visibly capable, you become a threat. And in a collapsed city, threats are removed early. The survivors who last are rarely the toughest. They are invisible, quiet, cautious, prepared, emotionally controlled. Because once the city becomes lawless, the most dangerous thing you can be is noticeable. The water trap. By day 8, almost every remaining water source is compromised. Pipes are dry, tankers are looted, fire hydrants are useless, pools are contaminated, rivers are chemical soup. Rain becomes the only new supply, but rain is rare, and when it comes, it becomes a trap. People hear it, see it, smell it, They run outside with buckets, cups, plastic bags, pans. And for a moment, the city fills with movement again. And then the ambushes begin, because rain doesn't just bring water, it brings targets. The new currency money is useless. Food is secondary, water is everything. And something else becomes valuable too: information. Rumors spread like disease. There's a working well in the North District. The military is handing out water near the stadium. A convoy is coming tomorrow. A shelter is open. Most of it is lies, but people follow it anyway. Because dying people don't need truth. They need hope, and hope can be weaponized. The first real killings, not theft, not fights, not chaos, real executions. Day 10 is when organized groups start clearing territory. A water stash is discovered. A building gets labeled. The strong take control. Anyone who resists becomes an example, a warning, and the city learns a new lesson. If you want to live, you don't fight for water. You join whoever controls it. That's how power forms in collapse. Not through leadership, through monopoly. The safe buildings. Eventually, certain buildings become known as safe, not because they are good, but because they are controlled. A former apartment complex becomes a stronghold. A grocery store becomes a fortress. A school becomes a camp. They put up barricades, they ration, they enforce rules. And those rules are simple. You work or you don't drink. You obey or you leave. You steal and you die. This isn't civilization, it's feudalism, and it spreads fast. The city splits into zones. By day 12, the city is no longer one city. It's a collection of territories, zones, each one with its own power structure, its own law, its own water supply. Some zones are run by ex-police trying to maintain order, some by gangs, some by desperate families with weapons, some by religious groups offering water for obedience. You don't travel between zones, because crossing borders without permission is treated like invasion, and invasion is met with force. The hidden killer, mental collapse. By the second week, dehydration isn't the only threat, it's the mind. The brain begins to unravel under constant stress. People stop thinking clearly, they become paranoid, they develop survivor guilt, they hallucinate, they break, they wake up screaming because they dreamed of running water, and then they realize it wasn't a dream, it was a memory. The brain mourns the old world the same way it mourns a dead person. It goes through denial, anger, bargaining, and then emptiness. In collapsed cities, mental breakdown is not rare, it's normal. The water expeditions. Those who control strongholds send out teams, not to help, to harvest. They raid abandoned districts for bottled drinks, medical supplies, filters, water heaters, rain tarps, bleach anything that can clean water. They take what they want, and they leave the rest to rot. Sometimes they bring back survivors, not out of kindness, because more bodies mean more labor, and more labor means more water. That is the new economy. The last illusion dies by day. 14, even the optimists stop waiting. No relief convoys, no government recovery, no National Guard hero moment. Because the war outside the city is consuming everything. Fuel, communication, logistics. And if there is rescue, it might not come to your city. It might go to military hubs, to strategic zones, to areas considered recoverable. And the city without water is not recoverable, not quickly, not cheaply, not politically worth it. So, the survivors finally accept the truth. They are on their own. The question that decides the end. At this point, every survivor faces one decision, a fork in the road, because there are only two paths forward. Path 1, become part of the new order. Join a zone, work, obey, survive. But your life is no longer your own. You trade freedom for water, and you live under someone else's rules. Path 2, leave the city, escape the zones, escape the predators, find a new source. But leaving is dangerous. The roads are broken. The countryside may be worse. And outside the city, you are visible, and visibility kills. The people who actually make it here is the uncomfortable truth. The survivors who truly last don't survive because they are strong. They survive because they understand systems. They do 4 things differently. 1. They reduce exposure. They do not travel during the day. They do not show supplies. They do not attract attention. 2. They secure water quietly. Not with raids, with process. They have filters. They have bleach. They collect rain. They scavenge water heaters. They know that water exists in places most people forget. 3. They control their emotions. They don't panic. They don't scream. They don't fight unless it's necessary. Because emotional chaos makes noise. Noise brings people. People bring death. 4. They form small trusted circles, not crowds, not mobs. Just a few people who share information, protection, labor. In collapse, the best group size is small enough to hide and large enough to defend. The city without water doesn't recover. It transforms into something older than modern life, older than democracy, older than law. It becomes the simplest society possible. Those who control resources control life. That is what collapse looks like. Not explosions, not Hollywood, just the slow, brutal stripping away of everything you thought was permanent. Until the only question left is, do you have water? You could watch this and think, this is fear, but it isn't. It's mechanics. It's how systems fail, and it always begins the same way. A supply chain breaks, a grid goes down, a resource stops flowing, and then, in days, the world you knew becomes a memory. So remember this. If WW3 ever comes, the bombs are not the only killer. Sometimes the deadliest weapon is silence and a dry tap. This is Crisis Timeline. Stay aware, stay prepared. Because in the end, knowledge is survival.